There's female privilege and male privilege. We're gonna start with male privilege, just so we can end on a positive note. Male privilege, testosterone. We're stronger. We have more physical strength. And again, we're talking about the average man versus the average woman, not a female bodybuilder versus the average man. We're talking about the average man versus the average woman. Our defaults. We have larger bodies. We're typically taller. Our average height is taller than the average woman. Our genetic lottery is worth millions. If you're born or if you become 7 foot tall as a man, you have scouts finding you in high school. Like, sir, come with us. We have some paperwork for you to sign. It's a privilege of being a male because our professional sports pays millions. It's a privilege of being a male playing professional sports. Our professional sports are highly lucrative. And again, we always talk about the negativity of like, right, it sucks being a man. We homeless and we get the highest suicide rate, but there are privileged to being a man. And I don't think we talk about the privileges of every category. We just talk about the privileges of the areas that we don't have. And like, they have this. I want that over there. I'm like, no, let's talk about what you do have. Let's talk about what men do have in terms of advantages. We get praised for having a high body count. We talked about this earlier. We have to work for sex. We have to work for the woman. We have to impress her. We have to have a plan on dates. We have to have our life together. We have to have, fancy clothing and a nice car, and the car has to be clean, and we have to have our own place. We can't live with our moms. We have to have all these things in place just so when she asks all these questions, we can have the right answer for it in hopes of getting sex. So you see when Drake has bodies on him just left and right, we know, yeah, he had to earn that because not everyone can become a rapper. When these athletes, just Tristan Thompson jumping from woman to woman to woman to woman. Nick Cannon, woman to woman to woman. Kids everywhere, just everywhere. Elon Musk, bodies everywhere. We realize, yeah, they had to earn that. Elon Musk didn't become a billionaire by chance. His cars are everywhere. Nick Cannon, you see him on everybody's TV channel. Drake, he's in your ears probably right now. It's normal for men to have to earn what they want. And therefore, when they earn it, you can have as much as you want after you earn it. As opposed to women, the man who owns the yacht, he had to work for years and decades to get that yacht. Whereas the woman on the yacht, she might take a nice little selfie in the mirror and got DM'd. It's different. It's not wrong. It's not wrong. It's different. And again, we're going to talk about female privileges. Right now, we're talking about male privileges. Body hair is okay. Body hair is not a bad thing. It's not looked down upon. Thank God we don't have this one. No periods or childbirth. It's a privilege. Well, once we squirt, we're done. Also, our rights stop there as well, which is a negative. We're not talking about negatives, but once a man, that's the end of his rights. I'm like, sir, unless you had a condom, hush your mouth. Go sit in the corner and wait till that child support, documents come in, because your choice was accountability on where you squirt. And since you decided to squirt here, it's out of your hands now, and there's no hot sauce, we'll be in touch. So yeah, thank God we don't have periods or childbirth. It's a privilege to be a man in that category, because I don't look at the calendar worrying about, Lord, is it now? Is it now? Is it now? Nope. It's just I have to deal with people I'm dealing with, and their dealings with it. You try to make them comfortable, and they're upset, and it's a whole thing. But yeah, it's definitely a privilege to be a man in those categories. We don't have to give birth to a child. We just do our little part. We're allowed to have dad bods. Now, I'm trying to get rid of mine. You understand? Muscle with me comes with fat. It's just, unless I eat completely healthy, which y'all know I don't. I'll be busting up some. I'll be breaking bread. You understand? But listen, dad bods. Men, a lot of men get away with it. You see the Family Guy and Lois dynamic. I'm like, how did he get her? I'm like, well, luckily, this is another benefit. We're allowed to compensate for our shortcomings physically. If you got a bag with you, she'll kind of overlook the dad bod and say, "Brad, the bank account looked decent enough. I'll overlook that. You might not enjoy the sex, but she'll be there. When it's time to go to the ATM, she'll pull up on you." We don't have a biological clock. Who is it? Elon Musk's dad just had a kid. He's like 75 or some foolishness. Men be popping out kids left and right, 60, 70 years old. Now, the average man has a biological clock in terms of, all right, if once you hit like 60, 65 or something, it's probably gonna be shooting dust. You probably not getting nowhere. But in regards to like our 30s and 40s, yeah, it's not typically a thing where we're racing to just pop out kids or to find somebody. And we're blessed in that way. It's a privilege to not have a biological clock. History is on our side. For every war that man has started, a man has won the war. A man has never lost a war to a woman. We are 100% undefeated against women. For all the women that complain about men starting wars and like, if a woman was in power, we would never have all these wars. I'm like, well, y'all don't have no armies. There's never been a majority of women army taking over anything, because we have the privilege of strength, of size, of agility, of muscle, all these things. So yeah, in terms of history, in terms of our military power, we have the advantage, and we've never lost to a woman. Men lose to men. So that's one thing. The ability to attract women with money. Now, a lot of men look down upon this and like, why are we attracting women with money? Like, the sex is gonna be bad because she's only there for your money, and when the money stops flowing, she's gonna leave you. All these things, cool. But you see a lot of women try to attract men with money by having this high-paying job, having this high-power career, and often it doesn't work. You've been single your entire life. You've just been working to build this career up, and then you turn 50, and then you're looking for, a 50-year-old man who makes the same amount of money you make, but also wants you. Like, yeah, you might find that, but the number's not on your side. The number is not the numbers are not on your side. I'll get to the chat in a second. I'm trying to push through this right at the 2-hour mark. And yeah, being tall is a must, or a plus rather. It's also a must. Being tall is a plus for men, whereas being tall for women typically is, it's not frowned upon per se. It's just kind of inconvenient for women. If they're taller, that means they're trying to find a man who's taller than them wearing heels, which means if she's 6 foot, she's trying to find a man that's like 6'3", 6'4", and there's not a lot of those men floating around. Men over 6'2" are roughly, what was it, 4% of the population, or it's like 3% of the population. It's not a lot of them. So it's different. Positive stereotypes, leadership, the pay gap, again, stereotype. It's not true. Pimp status, high body count is praised. Power, competence, patriarchy, again, a stereotype. No, I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm just saying the effect you think it has, it's mostly positive, because most people, all these high-powered women floating around at CEO positions, that's a result of patriarchy, right? We have a female vice president. That's patriarchy, right? The female on the Supreme Court. Females on the Supreme Court. That's patriarchy, right? So it looks like they're going in the right direction, because we're getting more women in these higher power positions as a result of patriarchy. So how we are constantly saying patriarchy is wrong and down with the patriarchy and it's bad and misogyny, it looks like women are being more and more empowered via patriarchy. So that's why I call it a stereotype, or it's more of a myth in terms of the outcome that most people think it's having on their lives. Assumed to be able to cheat, male privilege, and oppressors with power. Let's move on to female privilege, people. Female privilege. And we'll end on this. Must have a form of pretty privilege due to male nature. Most have a form of pretty privilege. Most women have a form of female privilege that they probably don't want to admit, or they just don't realize they have already. Most women have this already. It's my argument, and I don't typically get too much pushback, but I get a little bit. I think most women are pretty. I think most women are beautiful. Most women. If you go to Walmart at like 11 o'clock at night, you might find some alternatives, some exceptions. You'll be like, all right, that's what he meant by not all, but most, because that's different over there. I'm like, oh, this is super Walmart? Oh, that makes sense. Makes sense. But yeah, it's my argument that most women, if they're healthy, if they're fit, if they're attempting to put in effort in their own lives, I'm not saying cake and no makeup. I'm just saying most women to me are pretty. They're beautiful. She's a nice looking young lady. That's a form of pretty privilege because chivalry does not exist for men. Pretty privilege. Female privilege is having chivalry. Why don't anyone pull up my chair, open the door for me, pay for my dinner, flew me out? Why, man? Female privilege. They're females. And I'm confused why that term female is so offensive. It's accurate as hell, right? It's scientific in nature. I heard one explanation. It was like I don't want to be reduced to an animal or like an animal species. I'm like, so being accurate is now just offensive. Everything's offensive at this point. But I digress. More female privileges. They live longer, according to the data. Women outlive men. That's a privilege. Full custody in 90% of the cases. I don't think Leader Turner's in the chat, but I'm sure he would say it's around that area. 9 out of 10 times, unless a woman's on drugs, unless she did some crime, unless she got a record or something, unless she just can't, feed her family or whatever, she's getting full custody. You might get lucky. You might be blessed to get 50-50 custody, but in most cases, women get full custody. Don't ask me why. I don't work in the court system. I didn't write the family laws, but it seems that's reality. It's a benefit of being a woman. If a woman calls the cops, she's assumed to be the victim. If a man calls the cops, she's assumed to be the victim. I don't have any data for that, but I would argue it's accurate. Seduction. Robert Greene argues that women invented seduction, men adopted it. Women invented it. They realized I can just bat my eyes and get what I want. I can just bat my eyes and get what I want. I just have to smile at him and I get what I want. Give him puppy dog eyes and I get what I want. Rub his shoulders, I get what I want. Hug him from behind. Like just basic shit that if men did it, I'm like, all right, thanks. Go to work now. It's different. It's a privilege. Seduction, it's amazing that a lot of women don't realize the power they have over men. A lot of women don't realize the power they have because they're trying to be like men. They're trying to compete with men at being men. You're not going to beat a man being a man. We're different. We are different. We have advantages and disadvantages. I just read the male privileges. There's no amount of estrogen that's going to beat testosterone. Not at strength, not at speed, not at explosion in terms of energy. It's not comparable. They do two different jobs, and women have testosterone, just not the same amount as men. Seduction is amazing. Attention. Women typically get more attention because beauty attracts everyone. Women call women beautiful all the time. Men call women beautiful all the time. The mountains, everyone loves a beautiful landscape of the mountains. People love looking at the ocean or going next to the ocean, walking the ocean. People love a beautiful view because it's beautiful, because it's subjectively beautiful. People like beauty. Beauty attracts everyone. Money attracts everyone. People may not stay, but initially, beauty attracts everyone, just like money does. Unfortunately, money lasts longer. That's why an 18-year-old man, no one cares that he exists. The second he gets money at any age, the world cares. A beautiful 18-year-old woman, the world loses sleep. The world loses sleep. If you type in barely legal porn, like 18-year-old porn, what do you think pops up? A man or a woman? It's a woman. Because the world doesn't care about male 18-year-old virgins. They care about females. Is that a privilege? I don't know. But women are selling their virginities for millions of dollars. How many men can do that? I'm not sure many men that are capable of selling their virginity to anyone. Men get shamed for being virgins. Women get praised for it. She's so pure and she's chaste and she saved herself. And Prince Giving says men have seductive powers too. They just don't always know how to use them. That's facts. This is why Robert Greene argues that men adopted it. That's why I love Robert Greene, because it's so insightful to realize that a lot of the traits are human traits. The ability to seduce somebody It's just simply about understanding a human's mind and how the mind works, and how if you simply dangle what that person wants, first of all, by knowing what they want, you can seduce them, you can deceive them, you can manipulate them. It's simple. Cause and effect. Moving on. Female privilege, ability to have children and abortions. The choice to have children or to have abortions. Notice men don't have the privilege of choosing between having a child or having an abortion. We don't have a choice. After a man ejaculates, we have zero choice of what happens to that fetus, child, whatever you want to call it. We have zero choice. Zero. I'm saving whatever content I would have ever made. September might be it when I actually touch on the topic of Roe versus Wade, and my thoughts. A lot of people don't understand what Roe versus Wade being overturned actually meant, but we'll leave that alone for now. But in regards to female privileges, women have the privilege of having children. That's an experience that no man will ever experience. It's not possible. It's not probable either. Also, having an abortion, it's a woman's choice. Currently, in today's age, it's a woman's choice. There's no man that can say, I think you should do this because of this, and I want you to do this. It's still her choice. It's her choice. Currently. What else we got? Also, this kind of ties in. The choice to be an actual parent to a living child is a woman's privilege, because a man just waits for her decision. He has no choice in the matter. Once he ejaculates, his part is done completely. He has no choice whether or not he pays child support, whether the child is put up for adoption. He has zero say. Zero. The woman chooses everything. And then she lets him know, yeah, you'll be on child support. Better go get a job. She decides whether or not the pregnancy is terminated. And do I want to be a parent? No. Terminate it. I do. I'll have it. Adoption? Yeah, I'll give it up. Woman has a choice. It's not equal. It's a woman's choice. It's her privilege. Moving on. Daycare center employment. This one's kind of in there just because, I was just listing stuff, but you typically don't see men working at daycares. Is that discrimination? Is that discrimination? I'm not sure that if you went up to a daycare center and you saw a bunch of men working in there and you about to drop your child off, your precious child, would you leave your child in a daycare center that was all employed by men? I'm not sure you would. It's the privilege of being a woman. You get to work at daycares. You get to work with people's children, and people assume that you're safe. There are a lot of good men out here, but most men are not assumed to be safe with someone else's child. It's just not true. Homosexuality in women is fetishized and monetized, and sometimes by women themselves. Lesbians is probably the number one category in porn in most cases, like in most general categories. Gay men, they got their love somewhere else as well. But lesbians, that's in the movies, that's everywhere. Like people, that's up here. It's a privilege to those who are inclined to participate in that type of activity. It's a privilege. This is a somewhat of a nuanced argument, but I believe that if women want to, they can have unlimited sex. They may not like who it's coming from, but if a woman walks outside and just closes her eyes and says, I will have sex with anyone on the side of my voice, they will have offers within seconds. Because that's the dynamic of most men. Most men are in the on position in most cases. And that if one man won't, another will. Yeah, that's just my argument, that it's a privilege to women to have the ability and the potential and the choice to have unlimited sex if they chose to, because men have to typically earn our sex. We have to work for it. We have to work for it. That's why 18-year-old male virgins, there's more of those than there are female virgins, just because men have to become something before we get to reap the harvest. The option to have no accountability. There's always backup plans. There's GoFundMe's. There's OnlyFans. That's a privilege. I'm not saying it's wrong. I don't want to see homeless women anywhere. But again, you have what's called simps and white knights, and all these men are willing to just shell out cash and save people. and save people. If a woman makes a bad decision, there's probably all these fail safes available for her, all these shelters, all these women. If you're in trouble with domestic violence, what have you. And I'm not saying there shouldn't be. I'm just saying this is the reality of life: is that women typically have more resources available to them simply because they're women, versus men who can be doing the same exact thing. There's just less resources for men because we're expected to be something different, even though we're claiming that we're equal. It's unfortunate. OnlyFans. If I take a picture of my foot and post it, how much money do you think I'll make? If the average man takes a picture of his foot and posts it on the internet, how many likes do you think he will get? How much attention do you think the average man takes a picture of his foot, takes a selfie, takes a halfway nude bikini, well, whatever, takes a picture and posts it? Do you think he will get the same attention that a woman might get? Again, it's not wrong. The audience is different. Therefore, because men and women are different and we pursue what we are typically attracted to with different vigor because of what runs through our veins and through our bloods and through our hormones and what have you, life looks differently for men and women because we are different. Therefore, we pursue different things. That's why a woman can make $1,000 on OnlyFans. I'm not saying all of them are making that. I'm saying they have the same potential. Women typically share the same potential to make the same amount of money versus men sharing our same potential to not make as much as women. Is that a pay gap again? I ask, is that a pay gap? Again, we mentioned this. A woman's virginity is typically prized. It's prized. It's valued. It's admired. A man's ashamed. It's looked down upon. Fritz Gimme says, sex options can be a burden to women due to the added expectation of being chaste. We're supposed to reject it more than we accept what would be labeled 3 or 4. And it's unfortunate that is. But again, what I'm about to say applies to both men and women. You will always be shamed for over consuming anything that comes easily to you. You will always be shamed for over consuming anything that comes easily to you. I, as a man, if I go to McDonald's twice, 3 times, 4 times a day because they got a dollar menu and it's cheap and I can just buy it all day long, just if it came easily, and then like, how is that impressive? You gained weight. Yeah, most of the population can do that. That's why men don't get praised for gaining weight. We get praised for losing it. Women don't get praised for gaining weight. They get praised for losing it. Why? Because losing weight is hard. It's difficult. Not for everyone, but for most people, it's difficult. So therefore, gaining weight is what most of the population can do. Therefore, you won't be praised for gaining weight. Sex is easily accessible for women, or more easily accessible. Jesus, it's getting late. What is it? 8:35. Yes, past my bedtime. Sex is more easily accessible for women. Therefore, they get, shamed for over consuming something that came easily to them. Versus men, we have to work for it. Therefore, we don't get shamed when we get a lot of it after we earned that position in life. It's just different. It's interesting though. Finishing this up because I am tired. Virginity is prized. We mentioned that. Being skinny can be a plus. Not always. The stay-at-home option is beautiful. You get the option to stay at home. You just got to be cooperative. You got to find a man who's willing to let you stay at home and raise your children. That's an option. Is to sit at home. Yep, mountain time. I'm in New Mexico. It's an option. It's an amazing option. I'm all for it. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. I was used to calling the home phone and my mom being there and answering. If I was sick, if I needed to be picked up, if there was a conference that needed to be attended, I was used to having my mom at home. Now, whether or not she wanted to be there, that's on her. That's her choice to make. But yeah, I'm appreciative that my mom was a stay-at-home mom. I'm grateful. I'm grateful to have that experience growing up, to see the value of having your mom always available, having a stay-at-home. My dad had a stay-at-home wife while he served in the Army. Well, yeah, it doesn't seem like the worst option in the world. Obviously, you want your career, and you might have some ambition towards a certain career, what have you. But that's still your choice to choose that. Obviously, finding the right man to do so with, or the right woman, whatever folk want to do. You can tell I'm getting tired when I cut off my sentences and I start getting impatient with what I'm trying to say. I'm just tired at this point. Yeah, we're coming up on 2.5 hours. All right, we're gonna finish this up. We'll just kind of list off the rest. Damsel in distress, it's a privilege. Men can't do it. Better figure it out. Change the tire, sir. Call a tow truck. Figure it out. The damsel in distress doesn't apply to men. Neither does chivalry. Like we can't just help. No, you better figure it out. What else we got? Free food. Well, food dates and what have you. Being on yachts without paying for it. Just taking a picture sometimes is all it takes. It's not wrong. It's not wrong. You see yachts full of women because that's what men want to be surrounded by after they spent decades trying to buy that boat. I don't want a bunch of men on this boat flexing. I want femininity. I want to smell lavender in the air as we cruise around the harbor. It's okay to be a gold digger. You just can't do it your entire life. Men don't shame women for being gold diggers when they're 20, when they're 21, when they're 22. It's when they're 35, 36, 37, they're danger zone, no man's land, 45, 60. Like, you had your whole life to do all that. Now you're trying to do it after. Again, you can do what you want, but it's just the gold digging phase. It wears off once you get older and older and older, and you're asking for the same price, if not more. So, I mean, rest in peace, Kevin Samuels. He's missed. Multiple orgasms. It's a privilege. Men get one like every 20 minutes. it takes a minute to restore all that energy, man. Multiple orgasms. That's a privilege. We're not equal. I would love to have 10 of them bang. I can't. Women's only spaces and gyms. If a man had a men's only gym or men's only section, he would get sued. You can walk into any Gold's Gym or any like Curves or whatever and have women's only sections. Isn't that discrimination? Isn't that discrimination? It's crazy. The phrase "women and children first." Not only is that discrimination, but it's a privilege. If Titanic is going down, guess who gets the lifeboat first? Women and children. Now, I thought men and women were equal, but yet women have this privilege. The same way men have certain privileges, women have certain privileges. Children have certain privileges. Ageism, bruh. All these isms come up when you start realizing, yeah, there's different categories of people that have all these different advantages. And if we take them all away and say everyone's equal, a lot more women would have died on the Titanic. A lot more women would have died in the draft in World War II. But because there's different rules, there's double standards everywhere, it's not equal because there's certain privileges of being what you are. A few more. The option to wear makeup to change your face it's amazing. There's some amazing artists, amazing talented people out here that can just take my face and just make me look like Michael B. Jordan. Make me look like Idris, bruh. Change it. Get ready with me right now. Get ready with me. I'm gonna make myself look like Idris. It's crazy. Men can't change. This is what we look like. This is how we show up. The first day, I look like this. There won't be a different version of me with waterproof, in case we go swimming, in case we go to water park, in case I start sweating. This is my face. I can't change it. I can't beat my face. It's a privilege of being a woman. You get to change whatever you don't like about yourself. You get to change it. And now they're getting surgeries and BBLs, and we're just going to change everything. If I don't like it, I'm just going to change everything. Cut, doctor. Cut it off. Replace it. Something. Women have multiple words for fat. Men have one. Yo, men are fat. There's no body positivity movement for men. We're just fat. Right? You're undisciplined. Go to the gym. Put the fork down. Put something different on the fork. Women get to I'm thick. No. I'm big boned. No. I'm lard. No, I don't like that one. Big and beautiful. Check. We'll take it. There's men got What, big and tall? Big and tall? Dad bod? Okay, yeah. Try to justify it. This is my dad bod. It's my beer gut. It's your beer belly. You're fat, sir. Can't call women fat. It's a privilege to be able to have softer words to apply to your person. It's a privilege. Paternity fraud. This last one. Paternity fraud. The ability to lie and blame somebody else, blame something else for your decision making. The fact that paternity fraud is even a thing, it doesn't even, like, people don't even look into it. I'm like, yeah, I just found out that these children are not mine. How do we go from here? I'm like, you just keep paying child support. You just raise those children like that's a privilege to have the law back you up and have, oh, well, you signed a birth certificate. Surprise. That's a privilege. I made this video mainly because of the catalyst and the stimuli of, a lot of the rhetoric surrounding just, woe is female, woe is, pretty privilege. I wish I had pretty privilege. Like, yeah, cool. But again, the average woman should compare her life to the average man. If you ever find yourself living the life of an average man, you're probably just living a normal life. Obviously, we would all love to live the life of a Drake or one of these celebrities out here, where I just get the best of the best and I walk out to my private jet and I live an amazing life. That's not the life most people live. Pretty privilege, I would love to have some of that. I would love to have some of that. I was given average privilege. I was given a little bit of height privilege, a little bit of intellect privilege. Not everyone can talk on camera for 2 hours and 30 minutes straight and be comfortable. It's a privilege. Not everyone can reach on top of the fridge. It's a privilege. Not everyone has wide shoulders and a chest, and it's a privilege. I still have a hairline. It's a privilege. We're constantly weighing and measuring everyone else's privileges and saying, I wish I had that. Why don't I have their privilege? Well, I wish I had that. Look at the ones you do have. I just listed off thousands of them. Everyone has privileges. If you have white privilege, you got black privilege, you got female privilege, male privilege. You fall into one of those categories, if not at least two. Some people might have four. I don't know how, but it's not my business. But yeah, we all have privileges, and we're constantly comparing our privileges to somebody else's privileges. I'm like, use the ones you got, bro. Use the privileges you have, and try to make the best of them. That's all you can do.